Thanks for staying with us. Now, last week's postponement of the budget speech has left South Africans with more questions than answers. Parliament shocked the country and the international community with the last-minute announcement. Inevitably, questions are now being raised about cooperation in the government of national unity, with partners rejecting the 2% point hike on VAT. Fikile Mbalula is the ANC Secretary General and joins us with his party's views on the issue. Thank you so much for your time this evening, SG. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having us and your viewers at home.
Yes, half of South Africa can't watch this interview because there's stage 6 load shedding. What is the ANC's response to the fact that we're back at stage 6?
I think the minister has responded well and the team. They have explained the glitches that will last for about 5 days. We have not been out of the woods, but the fact that for the longest of time we didn't have load shedding is quite clear that we're in the right direction. Now that all of this have happened, I think they've built enough confidence for us to believe in them, that in the next 5 days we'll be out. And we have maintained that the strategic goal is to get out of load shedding once and for all. For as much as there will be 300, 400 days celebration, we are not out of load shedding. So there's not been easy victories claimed by the team at Eskom. They have celebrated the milestone they are making, but at the same time, they have not said we are out. And the fact that we could be, it is based on the work that they have done, that we could be out of the woods permanently.
Don't you think this is an embarrassment, though, especially the timing? Our budget was postponed, and now we have a G20 meeting tomorrow where we're speaking about economic growth and all the issues that we face, where you have world finance ministers attending and we're in stage 6. Isn't it an embarrassment?
The events in terms of coinciding with international events of the G20 is not going to give, obviously, a positive story for the country. But ministers who come from many countries that are in a situation like ours politically, like the GNU, will not be shocked. They will know that these things do happen in their countries, that budgets get to be postponed, and they have marveled at South Africa, how they have come to conclusion after the elections within 14 days to create a government of national unity. Even the market's reaction has not been, like shattering as you would have expected. And in your own quote-unquote Heidi crisis, that this does not amount to a crisis. It is something that will be resolved in terms of the budget postponement. What is key for us is the resolution of the load shedding, which is not only for our visitors, but for our own domestic South Africans in business, small businesses, that this load shedding has just been, in a lack of better words, an albatross.
Let's speak about the budget speech. Let's first actually get your perspective from the ANC. Do you support that 2% proposal for a VAT increase?
The question is not yes or no. First and
why
foremost,
not? It is a yes or no.
No, it's not yes or no. The fact of the matter is that our economy has not been performing well, and that government does need to address the question of fiscal adjustment. And when you deal with fiscal adjustment, you deal with a whole range of issues and options at your disposal to overcome that, because your fiscal adjustment must achieve stability. You've got so many things that you've got to do. Doctors, teachers must be paid. Civil servants must be paid. We have been managing the debt situation quite well over the years, but our borrowing has actually been exhausted. These are the challenges at our disposal. The ANC position is clear from its manifesto. No zero-rated essentials must be affected. That's what is important. But nonetheless, is 2% the only option on the table? It's a question that the executive itself have got to examine and say, indeed, is it doable or not? As they debated and discussed, they ran out of time and they had to postpone, which we support, the postponement to give us enough time to interrogate this particular issue,
so
including the question of options on the table for us in terms of addressing fiscal adjustment in relation to the challenges we're facing. We've got to spend more, but it is not equal to what we've got.
Yes.
In order
So the argument is that for many years there's been mismanagement of funds, there's been corruption, there's been bailouts of SOEs and constant bailouts of SOEs. So basically, we've been spending more than we have been collecting. Our economies aren't growing, and that directly affects unemployment rates. So again, Mr. Mbalula, I'm going to ask you, do you think that 2% is warranted? Because I hear what you're saying about the 0% basket that should not be affected, and they're trying to add on more items in that basket so it can cushion the most vulnerable. But do you accept the 2%? If you don't, what is the other option?
I've said to you, it's not yes or no, because it's not as simple as that. The people who are scoring political points want to simplify it to you and say that we've been fighting for the poor. The poor where? The question is, what is the solution on the table? And with regard to many that are there, that we need to be considered. And the ANC, as we grapple with this particular matter, as of tomorrow and going forward, will also be contributing into that discussion. At the present moment, I cannot answer the question of yes or no, 2% or not.
Okay.
We've got a clear position that essentials must be zero rated.
Sure.
And then in this particular instance, that's where we are in our manifesto of the ANC.
Would you say there was also a report that the other option was 10% tax increase, personal income tax? Would you say that the other option is to tax the rich more?
There is that suggestion in a study that was done by certain professors in, I think, Wits or UJ, on the question of the wealth tax. That's not the only option. There's a question of personal tax and all of that. All of those have been examined. We rather deal with a comprehensive thing on the table that is taking the country forward and that addresses the question of fiscal adjustment that bring about stability for the country. That's what is important.
Are you privy to how this 2% was proposed to your partners? Because to have a budget speech postponed literally at the last minute looks like there was a huge disagreement, and the fact that they were blindsided by this 2%.
There are suggestions that have been made. I'm not privy to the discussion, but I would have understood the minister in terms of his press briefing, because ministers must also behave. They must not break their own protocols and their own oath about matters they discuss in cabinet and share those with their colleagues and distort cabinet decisions. But that is not the issue.
Which minister didn't behave?
No, I'm saying ministers in general.
Oh, okay.
They must behave.
You're not referring to the mic
I'm
that
saying
was on.
ministers because
Okay.
the decision is the decision of the executive.
Okay.
That's how I understand it. Except those naysayers who say that politically this is our decision. We have understood as the ANC that the decision to postpone is a decision of executive. It came to my table as the Secretary General through my chief whip because he had to talk to others in Parliament. And then because executive brought this and then he talked to me and then we engaged and we said, yes, it's fine. We don't want instability. It's okay. If it is in the interest of reaching a consensus for all, in particular in the executive, that is good, and considering the interest for South Africa. Here is what we understand, is that if the minister had gone to the executive, and for the first time, there were things that they wanted to factor into the budget at the last minute, it would have had implications in terms of the minister's speech in Parliament, because it means what he says must be implemented. If in their own wisdom, as they discuss, and that the minister cannot effect changes into the speech based on their discussion, they need more time, that's a correct decision that we support. And first, let me clarify. The 2% issue, arose even before the budget through COSATU. And COSATU came to us as the ANC and said that we must not agree. That time it was not prescribed as to whether it's 2%, 1%, and so on. We must not agree to anything that is about increase of VAT because it is regressive.
Yeah.
Because COSATU has been very consistent in relation to this matter for quite some time. And then we said, well, of course, we agree in terms of VAT. Here is our manifesto, which you endorsed, we agreed to, and that is it. So if at the level of cabinet, they have discussed the matter and it needed them some time, which is what I think they put as a preposition before the parliamentary politicians, particularly in parliament and different political parties, I think that is correct. And that is why, as the ANC, we agreed that it must be postponed.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You can't give me a yes or no answer as to whether or not you reject or accept the 2%. You want to propose it's what's best for our country, our economy, and you want to make sure that you cushion the most vulnerable.
We will deal with the matter comprehensively when we know, like you asked, what is the context to 2%. Okay. At the present moment, we are talking 2%, 2%. It was not even tabled in cabinet. I mean, it was tabled probably in cabinet. It was not tabled in parliament.
Okay.
And then we'll give you our view with regard to that.
Does this show cracks in the GNU? Does this show that you can't work together, you're not agreeing?
No, that is not the case. We have said, and we still repeat once more, that the GNU is constituted by political parties who are arch rivals, and at the same time do not share the same views on different issues and all of that. And it doesn't show that. I mean, if government, the executive, agreed on the budget to proceed, nothing would have stopped us engaging with the product that is before Parliament. And in this particular instance, it would have meant that parties agree with the budget, but the budget is tabled before Parliament, and political parties make their view through votes later on in terms of the budget. So in this particular instance, this is the decision of the executive, and we support it. And we believe that we will be in a position within a reasonable period to find each other.
So the GNU is still standing strong?
Nothing that said that is disintegrating. In this particular instance, GNU is still standing.
Okay.
And we're still convinced that GNU will go a long way. And in this particular instance, we will be faced with difficult questions before the GNU going forward.
You have a challenge in court regarding the Expropriation Act, so there obviously are major differences. But if you say things are going strong, then we take your word for it.
They are not going strong.
They're not going strong?
They are not going strong.
But they're stable?
There are points of differences that arise from time to time in the GNU, and those particular issues will be attended to as and when they come.
So the GNU is not standing strong?
I am saying that your understanding of the government of national unity.
Yeah.
If you say it is strong because it is not strong because we differ on a particular matter, that's a total misconception. Because in its very nature, the government of national unity will differ on certain issues, in particular policy matters and all of that. And then the most important question is how you arrive at the resolution of the issues that you differ about.
Okay, let me ask you this. Will you come to a resolution? You have to table budgets on the, or present budgets on the 12th of March. You'll come to a resolution? You'll find a resolution with all your parties in the GNU?
Government will go back and discuss as the executive the budget, and then make a conclusion on that. And we'll deal with that as it comes.
Okay, let's talk about provinces like KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. There's been a reconfiguration of some sort. What does that actually mean? Could you just explain to the public what that means in terms of the status of the two provinces?
Okay. We are now at the end.
Yeah.
The ANC, after the elections, made an overall analysis. And then we went to KZN and KZN and Gauteng, we made a determination based on empirical evidence and interaction with our structures, what is the state of affairs. And then we then came to a conclusion that we cannot leave the state of affairs as it is. We need to intervene. Intervention means we've got to strengthen our organization, we've got to unite our organization, and then we've got to tamper with the status quo. Essentially, that is what the reconfiguration is about, to tamper with what is there, with the sole and view of strengthening it, and with the sole and view of ensuring that when you tamper with it, you are guided by your own law, which is the constitution of the ANC. And that is what reconfiguration is about, and that is what we have followed as announced at the end of our meeting, where we considered the reports of the two provinces.
So what does that mean regarding, for example, the chair in Gauteng, Banyazalisi?
Tampering means anyone can be tampered with. And the solution then is reconfiguration. It means the chair can remain, the chair cannot remain.
Okay, in this case, what happens? Do the chairs remain?
We will announce on Tuesday for KZN, and then we'll come and announce about Gauteng.
And was this all done on the basis of the fact that the provinces did not perform well?
No, it is on the basis that, one, our provinces, in terms of their performance, they required organizational intervention that is drastic in the two provinces, because.
But didn't you need drastic intervention nationally, given your poor performance?
We have not performed well. We have dropped in percentages, but in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, we did not drop, we lost. Do you understand? Now, that in KwaZulu-Natal, most populous province, we have dropped to 17% when the third party from the ruling party. Here in Gauteng, we are number 1, but we are at 35%.
Okay.
So we lost elections. We lost with 1% in Northern Cape, but we can still govern. We have dropped, but we're still in majority in other provinces.
Okay.
So the question of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng does not need us to wait any other time. We need to work now with our structures, regroup, and fight back to win these provinces.
Okay, I've completely run out of time, but I just quickly have to ask you, is there an update on Tony Yengeni? Wasn't there action that was taken against him? And if I'm not mistaken, former President Jacob Zuma says he wants to challenge his expulsion.
The disciplinary processes of the ANC are grinding. And all members who are ill-disciplined, breaking Rule 25, are a subject of the disciplinary processes. As and when we conclude on them, we'll make pronouncement. And I've said to you that those people will be taken to DC. Zuma is expelled. He can do whatever he wants. We'll respond to everything that he seeks to do as and when it comes to our table. But from where we stand, we don't have a member called Jacob Zuma in our books.
Okay.
He's not our member. He's got his own political party, and that is running as his president, and that's where matters stand.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, SG. I wish we had more time, but you're always willing to come back, so we'll get you back next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Be careful about come back, because I promised JJ I will come back to talk renewal, and he's gone. So be careful.
Oh my goodness, don't speak that over my life. Thank you so much for your time. That was the ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula. Now, the latest episode of Devi's coming up next, and I'll be back at the top of the hour. Do stay tuned to eNCA.